up? What up? What up? What's going on, folks? Another episode of Ryan Reviews Everything, and we're talking about another episode of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the spinoff. Definitely loving it so far, but you know, I gotta state the obvious. You know, for those who are the Last of Us fans, look, once again, I'm a fan of it, but come on, man. Like, this is so far the storyline's kind of copy and paste, man. It's like, you know, okay, first episode, we see, okay, Daryl has to protect this young boy, Laurent, because Laurent is going to save the world from this zombie apocalypse. Episode 2, I loved how we actually see how Isabelle came to be and how Laurent came into the picture. I love that whole storyline. You know, we definitely see that it was a completely different life from her being a nun. She used to be a pickpocket. She's out here doing white lines at the clubs. Isabelle definitely had a crazy life before the zombie apocalypse and before she became a nun. But, you know, once again, from this Last of Us comparison, it's like, okay, Ellie's mom was infected by the zombie while she was pregnant. Therefore, this is why Ellie could not be infected by zombies. So in the second episode, when we see the backstory of Isabelle and how Laurent was born, same exact story. Isabelle's sister, who's pregnant with Laurent, messed around and she gets bit while they're trying to find refuge and safety or whatnot. And once again, he's born right before the mom becomes a zombie. So now it definitely wouldn't surprise me at this point if, like, 2-3 episodes down the line, we find out that Laurent is just completely immune to zombie bites, something like that. Like, you know, and then also later on in the season, we may find out that, you know what, we're going to experiment with Laurent's blood or whatever and see if that can help cure this apocalypse. Who knows at this point? But once again, that's I'm off on a rant. I definitely want to get into the recap of this episode. Once again, the backstory in the past, I loved it. I definitely enjoyed just that backstory. You know, give these characters, you know, more of a reason to you know, invest, you know, your feelings into rooting for these people. We definitely see that they're clearly the protagonists throughout this series. So I love that. I really want to, her name escapes me. I'll put it in the credits or in the post. I really want to know what's the backstory with the other nun, the African-American nun. We really want to know her backstory as well. And hopefully we'll get that later on in the season. But as they go on this quest to take Laurent where he needs to go so he can do his save the world stuff, they definitely run into a whole crew of little kids who fend for themselves. They got weapons. They have this particular system in place, everything. So it kind of reminded me of the Lost Boys squad from Peter Pan, when the Hook version, you know, rest in peace to Robin Williams. The kids reminded me of that. But nevertheless, they're taking care of themselves. And we definitely see that also a running trend with this episode was a lot of lying going on this episode. Kind of little white lies, but still lies, you know, nonetheless. You know, it definitely starts with one of the main things Daryl was saying was, like, when it comes to Laurent, you're going to have to tell them the truth. You know, you just can't have him running around here thinking everything is sweet. You know, we are in a terrifying zombie apocalypse type of world. No need to keep sugarcoating stuff in this type of environment. He clearly sees that there's zombies around. You know, what else you got to lose, you know, by lying to him about the other stuff. So hopefully we'll see his reaction when he finds out how he was really born, who his real mother is, and so forth. And speaking of Laurent, we definitely see how he was disappointed in the first place, finding out about his mule, who they had to let run away to get safe from zombies, and then they just lied to him about that. Just all the small stuff, which I understand. It's like he's a kid. You know, you may not want to tell him the harsh realities, but once again, if your reality is you gotta, you know, save yourself from zombies every day, I'm pretty sure telling the truth about some other stuff really couldn't make situations any worse, right? Same with Daryl. You know, we get to Daryl. They definitely, you know, he gets told. Oh, this episode was almost like the side mission episode also. He gets told about, you know, like like a castle full of weapons and not weapons, but medicine. And there's a horse since their mule ran away in the first place. And so he definitely goes there to go and try to see if he can steal a horse, and runs into another American. And this was one of these ignorant Americans who is just like an all around jerk. It's almost like even in the zombie apocalypse, it's like no matter where I'm at, you got to respect me because I'm an American. And it's just like, come on, dog. Like, you see where you at. I don't know if those rules really fly here, especially in this type of environment. But, and we also see the, just that relationship between the leader of these kids and Daryl. I thought that was cool. I have a feeling that we will see this community of kids again at some point. And he even rescued somebody who was taken just held captive. So this other American was really a jerk, just stealing everything for himself. And it's like, of course, as a viewer, audience members, it's easy to say that, but when you really think about it on second thought, it is pretty realistic, and I love how they try to keep the show realistic in that manner, that you are going to come across people who are like, by any means necessary, every man for themselves. And that's really how I'm carrying things throughout this situation going on in the world. So, I think it's easy to say, to look at somebody as a jerk. But when you think about it, you really wouldn't know what you would do in that situation. Who knows? For all we know, some of us may be that exact same way. That's all I'm saying. So we definitely see them putting 2 and 2 together at the end of the episode. Once again, I know I went on a rant and kind of went a little backwards there. But we also do see that Gaudron, who's the leader of this militia throughout France, south of France at least, he started putting 2 and 2 together and realized more about Laurent, that he was actually born in this convent and so forth. And just another side note, speaking of Laurent not handling small lies very well, I think that will be another interesting journey that we see throughout this series. Just how he starts to interact with other people outside of the convent. I mean, he's telling his story about his father, this and the third, and he's not picking up on sarcasm. He's not picking up that these other kids are kind of making fun of him. And he even looks at most of them as friends. I mean, granted, I don't think the jokes was like mean-spirited by any means, but it's like just the fact that he was the only, child growing up in this convent is like, it also, on top of that, you got these other people just, shielding you from the world and lying to you. You really can't pick up on social cues like that. So it'll be interesting to see if we see some type of character development or progress when it comes to Laurent throughout the series, and I'm sure that there will be a season 2. So just throughout however many seasons this spinoff will give us. So I really enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to more. I really want to know what Gaudron has in mind. Does he plan on trying to kidnap Laurent? I really want to know what's next for Laurent himself. Like, will he once again start to really act a little more standoffish once he starts to gradually pick up on the real world? And we see a little bit of that in this episode. Like, when it's time for them to leave and continue on their journey, for obvious reasons, Laurent found some peers that's around his same age, and he clearly doesn't want to leave. But once again, they're on a mission, and he becomes a little standoffish as they leave. So I'm excited for it, despite the very, very similar comparisons to The Last of Us. I'm still all in on this spinoff, and hopefully you guys are too. If that's my review, love it or hate it, peace.